Hi, this is Keith Bryant for Global SMT and Packaging at Productronica India, and I'm here with three esteemed gentlemen to have a panel discussion entitled Make in India. First guest on my right-hand side is Shiva Kumar. He's been selling equipment into the market in India for Nordson from the beginning of Make in India. And on his immediate right is David. David is the director of Humasil, obviously coming in from the UK, but he's been making material in India for a long time and supplying to the Indian market and also other regions. So I have like an elder statesman, and not quite so elder statesman. And on my left, I have Samanya from NMtronics, who's their technical manager, and he's been 1 year in the industry, so he is very new to Make in India. So first question for the two gentlemen on my right is, when Make in India started 2014, a lot of people were skeptical that nothing was going to happen. Obviously, we'll talk later, it's a huge success and it's becoming an even bigger animal that's rolling and rolling. But what were your early thoughts, and even, let's say, for the first few years, as to how it started to materialize?
Okay, to begin with, we were excited because that's probably what the industry has been wanting for a long time. So for a long time, people were expecting, okay, we need to have some localization, some growth. People were all talking, but nothing really grew. So when Make in India started, so everybody were excited, but people were watching just to see how much it progresses, how much of it gets executed, turns into reality, but that's growing well. And we from Nordson seriously believe in this, which is also reason why we have now started setting up our own manufacturing equipment capability in India. We have started manufacturing our dispensing machines out of our Bangalore facility, not only for India, but for the rest of Asia, including Europe. Right, so this is a place where we are getting it certified by some of the global guys, and the equipment will go from here. So everybody is excited, and we just hope that we can build on and get more products to get done out of India, which would help the local industry also. So yeah, so it's something that we were excited, but now we feel, yeah, it is turning into reality. It's positive, definitely.
And yourself, David?
Okay, Humasil have been selling conformal coatings into India for over 20 years now, and we started with the military and the space industry. In the early 2000s, business was growing, and the Make in India program started, and we decided it was time that we had our own facility. So in 2016, we bought a company in Pune that was an aerosol filling company, and with plenty of space for expansion. We've invested in that site now, expanded it, and we're doing bulk manufacture of our classic range of coatings. We're doing aerosol filling, and this aerosol filling now is for the whole of the Humasil organization. Before, each country was filling their own aerosols by contract manufacturing. Now we have our own aerosol filling. So that's really helped us along the way, and we decided that the market was growing, and therefore we had to invest in India and start in India. That's how we established our plant in Pune.
And I guess question for either of you, what challenges did you have in the early years to make happen what you wanted to make happen?
Okay, we have just started in terms of manufacturing for the electronic industry. The first challenge, of course, is localization, because it does not make sense if you are just going to assemble. So there is a lot of effort that we are putting in terms of identifying local suppliers for our parts, and do have plans over the next 6 to 8 months of ramping up to about 70 to 80% localization. So that, I think, is our first challenge. And once we get the ecosystem set up, I think that would help us, branch out and get more equipments to be made out of India. Because if you don't make equipments within India, you cannot be competitive. you cannot grow. You cannot get into NPA activities. You cannot convince some of your major OEMs that we are dependable people, because you're still at the mercy of some other country. There are so many logistics issues that we saw in COVID, political uncertainty. So you can never be a consistent or a dependable supplier to somebody in India if you don't localize it. So that, I think, is a key that we are working on, and so far it's been good. So we just hope that we can continue and get the cycle done.
Okay, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit now and come to Samanya, because I know NMtronics have got now a business called MNT Automation, and you're actually also looking to build equipment in India for Indian market, and maybe also at a later stage for export. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, that's right. NMtronics actually is already building in India, and at this moment we are selling a turnkey solution for surface mount technology across India. We have wonderful customers and equally wonderful partners. We've been associated with Fuji Corporation Japan for the last 25 years as the partners, exclusive distributors. In 2017, we started this business division called NMT Automation. It was geared for localization to take baby steps towards building more and more advanced machines in India. We started with board handling systems and board handling units, and at this moment, we don't sell any of the board handling systems or units, because we are very confident that our conveyors, our special purpose machines, PCB loaders, unloaders, cooling conveyors are world class. And this show, we are very excited to also announce that we have two different versions of laser marking machines called Mark 1 and Mark 2. One's with a flipper and one's without, so fixed rail. This show, we are also announcing our in-house automatic optical inspection machine for through-hole, hybrid, and conformal coating. So with all of these advancements made since 2017 in NMtronics, we are quite confident that the future for Make in India is very bright. However, we don't just want to rely on the external forces. So for us, we are taking a three-pronged approach. One is talent development and industry awareness. So we want to encourage young talent who are in universities and who are seeking all different sorts of education to look at the electronic manufacturing industry, the semiconductor industry, and see it as a viable potential for the future. In NMtronics, we have average tenure of about 17 years, so it's quite high for many companies, but it goes on to say about the leadership of the company and the vision, because we are always innovating. At this moment, we have onboarded about 40 different principals across the world, and we are very excited to be leading the next change in this industry and bring the best technology for our customers in India. So the first one is talent development. We have talent development of two different kinds. One is geared towards serving the existing line of business, and the next is to develop talent for the next line of business. And with this approach, we feel that we are able to not only promote Make in India from a supplier or a vendor perspective, but also Make in India from like a thought perspective. That we don't want to lose talent because of brain drain. We want to increase the opportunities available in India so that the best talent remain in India and contribute towards the economy. So that's prong number one. Prong number two is, of course, localize as much as we can, but develop everything in-house. So for us, like I mentioned, we start with simple systems, and now we're doing relatively complex machines, and soon we'll start introducing more advanced tech and start maybe offering products in the next year, which probably the industry has never seen before. We're very excited about that for the next year. So we want to develop set of machining centers, set of fabricators, and all the different engineering resources in-house. And the third is everyone needs partners. We are our principals partners as well, so which means that we are constantly working with our vendors to make sure that they are geared for the future as well.
Okay, a couple of things that you've touched on there. I'm going to bounce off my other two guests. The first one, when everyone starts talking about India, there's a lot of pushback that says doesn't have a good infrastructure, doesn't have all the things that it needs to make stuff happen. Is that something that you guys have encountered, or you think it's completely either an outdated or just wrong view?
See, there are some truths to it. I mean, I don't think you can polish it off. There are a lot of places where we can improve in infrastructure in terms of power, uninterrupted power supply, in terms of better roads, especially for the industrial area. So those are things that there are a lot of scope for improvement, no doubt about it. But there is a lot of improvement that has already happened from what it was, a few years ago. Over the last 10 years, 15 years, we have seen significant improvement in roads, in terms of communication, freight capability movement. So yeah, we are moving forward. But if you ask me, are we there? No, we still have some place to catch up. But at least I'm happy that we are moving in the right direction. Hopefully a few years down the line, we should be up there.
Thanks, Shiva. I think that's refreshingly honest. Did you kind of agree with this view, David? Or?
I do. We've, over the years that we've had our manufacturing facility here, we've had to deal with various infrastructure problems, but we've worked with the local MIDC, etc., to overcome them. But we've also invested in training our workforce, especially for quality control. That is something that Humasil has always pushed hard, because we like to sell a quality product that is the same all around the globe. So we have invested heavily in our quality control side of it and with the people that we employ. And locally, as you were saying, the roads are improving. They did a big project last year around where our factory is, redoing the roads, bringing them up to a good standard.
It's improving, but we can improve even
better. Yes, there's more to do.
Yeah,
more to do.
Yeah.
And what about
at least we are on track.
Sorry. What about recruiting people, Shiva? Is that causing you a problem? Or
Skill, yes. Skill is definitely a challenge. Skill is definitely a challenge, because right now, over the last couple of years, we are seeing an expansion, abrupt, explosive expansion. Many guys are putting up factories in India. They're absorbing 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. The talent pool in India was very less earlier, right? We only had few major guys, and there were only a certain set of people. Now they are in high demand. Everybody wants some local people to be present, even though they can get people from outside. So I think the next 2 years, 3 years, it's going to be a scramble for resource, human resource. But like what he was telling, right? And there are quite a few people who are now including skill development as part of their curriculum in institutes and colleges. And all of these people, when they get out, so I think few years down the line, I guess about 3 to 4 years, things should stabilize. Things should stabilize where we'll have more quality people, more skillful people. But as on date, we have a few, and there is a mad rush for those few guys.
Yeah, and I know your leader is talking about wanting to get SMT as part of the curriculum in a lot of places. So it gets, like, let's say, embedded in an early stage into the students even as they're coming through. So that's obviously something that is going to help the industry a lot going forwards.
That's right. Yeah. So I have a different perspective on the talent available in India. I think it mostly has to do with awareness. At this day, you can find a developer anywhere within India, and many companies, global companies, rely on India to be the powerhouse. I think it has to do with awareness. It has to do with that, excitement behind a particular product or an industry. And that's actually what we at Enemtronics are trying to develop slowly, but because we're not as big as global players, but steadily. So at this moment, we have tied up with Indian Institute of Technology at Kanpur to set up a center of excellence. But in this center of excellence, we are looking at embedding the SMT curriculum within undergraduate programs. So the best and the brightest talent, they actually have an elective that they can choose. Perhaps maybe it was just not available. And talking about masters and PhD and postdocs, they should have a lab where they can work and they can develop skills and research and bring new innovations. And we have a very wonderful professor with us, Professor Nilesh Badwe, and yeah, we are very excited about the future because for the last 1 year, talent development has been, I think, our top 3 priority.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing. Myself and David, we spend a lot of time in Europe and the US, and engineer doesn't have the kind of quality ring that it used to have. You mentioned developers. Yeah, everybody either wants to get into software, or they want to open their own YouTube channel, or they want to sell things on TikTok or whatever, and they all want to be millionaires by they're 21. You tell them, yeah, you're going to go in, you're going to work in this production line, and you're going to build this stuff. It's not sexy. But I have to say, from people that I talk to in Asia, engineer is still, let's say, a respected profession, respected trade, whatever you'd like to call it. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people from outside Asia don't really understand about the culture. And yeah, it's hard to find people who are qualified as a surface mount engineer or a technician, because first of all there wasn't the training, and then there weren't the jobs. The problem that India has now is it's going like this, and somehow it's got to keep throwing the coal on the fire to keep it burning. And the one thing that I say when people say to me about this kind of thing is, India has a great talent pool. India has a great education system. We just need to give them the right education, which is exactly what you said. And now that's starting to happen. I think, as Shiva says, 3 or 4 years, then it's going to be in a really healthy state, and then you'll be ready to push on for the next levels of growth. So, okay, David.
Yeah, one of the things I like about attending exhibitions in India is when the students come in. In India, they want to know what you do. They want to understand what you do, and they ask very intelligent questions. And I will spend 45 minutes giving them an overview of conformal coatings, of what they're for, how they protect, and they're interested. We go to exhibitions in Germany, Productronica Germany, and the students come in on a Friday, and all they're interested in is what you're giving away. They don't want to know what So I think there is going to be, as long as we can get that message across to the students, come into industry. Industry is good. You will learn. I'm a great believer in apprenticeships. I'm from an era in the 60s where I did an apprenticeship. I then joined a larger company, got on their management training, and here I am, many, many years later.
I can say from a slightly younger perspective, only slightly, yeah, I started my life in engineering as an apprentice. But in the UK, they're starting to come back now because people realize that there was a real value to it. But the whole apprenticeship ethos just died. I don't know whether it died because they couldn't get the people to do it, or the companies didn't want to invest the money in the people to bring them through. But I think India doesn't have that problem now, and from what you guys are saying, it isn't going to have it in the future. So as far as SMT is concerned, Make in India is alive and well and booming. So let's move the conversation now on to semiconductor. Government money has been available for semiconductor for companies to set up OSATs and also to set up fabs. We had the Prime Minister here doing the inauguration on the first day of the exhibition, and I've said it a few times in my interviews, but I unfortunately didn't get there. I haven't heard it, but I've had 5 people say to me, he's got a 10 to 15 year plan. No politician has that. No, doesn't matter whether you look in the States, you look in the UK, you look in Europe. No politician has a 10 to 15 year plan. They have a plan for the next 2 or 3 years if you're lucky, but they're not putting that vision together. And we talk about semiconductor. I mean, it takes 1 to 2 years to build a fab. If you only have a 2-year plan, then fab can't be in it by definition. So the fact that India is looking that way forward is great. So I'm just going to go round the table and start with Shiva and say, what do you think about it? How do you think it's going to happen? When do you think it's going to happen? And where do you think there are going to be problems if there are any?
We will definitely have quite a few challenges from what I see. To begin with, it would be, of course, investments. It's going to need huge investments. We are okay there because I think now government has realized, right, that they need to be a major partner if this has to succeed, right? So that's a good positive thing. The second thing is manpower. SMT, I believe, is less challenging and we are, at the seams. Semicon, we are barely there, right? Many of the people who are now putting up, all the key guys who are putting up, they are actually hiring people from outside India, the key talent level, to ensure that they are able to sustain and grow, to ensure that it is optimized in terms of running and getting the output. So it's going to take some time for all of this to percolate down and have the local guys who can, get the knowledge level needed and the skill level needed to operate, sustain and improvise and improve a semicon level activity, which is where the world is probably decades ahead of us, right? Significantly ahead of us. So first is investment, second of course is manpower. These are two challenges that I anticipate. Hopefully next 2-3 years, if the current market is going to stabilize in terms of the major players who are setting up, that would give us some momentum in terms of the new guys coming in, and now then they'll have some, somebody to look up to, some direction that they can look at and then move forward. So yeah, it is positive, but yeah, I think the road is a bit far in terms of getting into optimized, stable state.
What I like is the fact that people seem to understand that it's not easy. We have the CHIPS Act in Europe, we have the CHIPS Act in America, and it seems to be a government could just throw a little bit of money at it and it's going to happen. And we all know semiconductor is not that kind of an industry. It's not like farming where it's all established and yeah, if you give them money, they can buy more corn. If they buy more corn, they can plant more corn, then we have more corn at the end of it. Semiconductor is a little bit different to this. And, I'm not a political person, but my general view of the politicians in other countries that are involved in these things, they don't really understand it. But in India, there seems to be that understanding. And yeah, I'm sure there are going to be challenges, but I think people are going to be open and honest and they're going to fight to overcome them. And if you have a 10 or 15-year plan, somebody's got to make it happen. If you're a politician and you have a 2-year plan and suddenly you're out of office, doesn't really matter what happened, it's all in the rearview mirror, yeah? So the fact that you guys have put this foundation in the ground, I think is going to make a difference. What do you think, young David?
I fully agree with the statements you guys have made, and I think it comes back to education, it comes back to getting into the colleges, educating them, showing them what the possibilities are in semicon, in that industry. You're talking about SMT, fully support that, but we've got to do the same, in my opinion, with semicon, because the people that are coming in from outside, they're not going to last forever. You've got to educate your locals. You've got to bring and encourage them to become involved.
Yeah, in fact, I've been talking to quite a few of them because we are working with them. Many of them, at least personally, I can see that they really say that, yeah, what we thought was a given in other places is not a given here, right? So the amount of effort that I need to put to get it to level here was so easy there, but it's not so easy here, right? Because getting the awareness, getting the ecosystem, getting the logistics, all of that is a challenge still. So semicon, yeah, it is important, but I think the gap is more. The only good thing is we are in the right direction. So as long as we can sustain it over the next 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, that should be good.
And I know you guys have customers like Keynes who are, I think they've opened an OSAT already and they have plans for like 4 or 5 more. So these are running, and I suppose you also have a plan within your, let's call it your education scheme, to also help in the semiconductor industry which is a lot more challenging than even what you're doing already.
Right. The way we look at semiconductors is that we don't know anything yet, and which means that we learn with our customers. Customers are our best teachers, and our partners are our best teachers. You know, we have onboarded some of our partners who have supplied semiconductor machines and equipment and process technologies across the world, in Taiwan, in Europe, in the US, in ASEAN countries, and we're learning from them. We hold regular training for our own existing staff and develop a curriculum that we can then look into, because we are manufacturers and we are machine guys, right? We sell machines, we sell process technology. We don't manufacture, but at the same time, that doesn't mean we shouldn't know anything about manufacturing. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't have manufacturing engineers in-house. It's a long journey for us. We have taken the first steps last year, and this time we have a booth in the Semicon India, and we are showing some of our principles over there. And so far, the reception has been better than I anticipated, for sure. I think in the next few years, we will see a different perspective on this. As our customers grow, we have to gear up, and we will.
Yeah, people were saying they were surprised how big the semiconductor halls were this year, and how like interested everybody was in the Semicon part of the show. So that in itself shows that, yeah, there's an interest here, and there's a thirst for the knowledge. So yeah, I'm completely confident that over the next few years, India is going to hack this challenge as well. And I'm probably more confident about India than I am of some other countries where their governments are supporting what they're doing. Because if you look at the history of Make in India, no one in the world could say it hasn't worked amazingly well. I went to the first launch meeting 2014 I got a feeling it was a Productronica. And we heard the ministers tell everything, and I walked out the hall with two American guys and a German, and they said, we'll give it 6 months. And when I bump into those guys now, I still remind them that, now we're 10 years down the line, and the face of India in terms of electronics has changed absolutely completely. And with this move to get equipment made in India, to get material made in India, you guys are also making India for equipment. This is going to fuel, let's say, the next step. And then behind that, we've got the semiconductor industry coming along. And I've interviewed an ex-minister on the first day, and he said, yeah, what we're looking for is not manufacturing, we're looking for an electronics manufacturing ecosystem. We want the supply, we want the materials, and we want to be delivering whatever these things go into at the end of the day. We don't care whether it's going into India or whether it's going into the world. So I want to thank my three guests. It's been really interesting for me. I hope it's been interesting for the people who've been watching. And this is Keith Bryant, Global SMT and Packaging, Productronica India, signing off from a great panel debate. Thank you, gentlemen.
NMtronics India is your partner in technology, providing high-tech capital equipment for PCB assembly and testing through world-class equipment manufacturing companies. MINT is our state-of-the-art experience center in Noida, showcasing live SMT line performance. We take single-window responsibility for chip-to-ship for your SMT shop floor with customized Make in India automation solution. We are a team of 350-plus highly qualified and trained engineers representing 40-plus principals and spread 9 cities all across India, promising best equipment performance, quality, and service support.